Okay, if we could get everybody to take their seats, we'll bring the meeting to order. My name is Liz Adams. I work at CRL Associates. Normally, we have either Terrence or Maria Garcia-Berry here to facilitate. However, Terrence at the last moment got called to the governor's mansion to do a presentation for Black History Month to a group of people. And Maria is with the rest of the people from my office at a client appreciation event. So I'm going to be running around doing everything I usually do, plus trying to facilitate here, but I think we'll be fine. We're going to start with introductions, so I'll head down to the end here, and we'll start with Armando.
Thank you, Liz. My name is Armando Plan. I represent in the neighborhood of Globeville, also very involved in Elyria, Swansea, and the rest of Denver as well. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello, Jeremy Rowland with Family Environmental.
Dave Oletsky from Globeville.
Hi, Drew Dutcher from Elyria and Swansea Neighborhood Association.
And Elizabeth Globeville.
Kayla Birdsong with the Grow House.
I'm Betty Cram from this area, and I'm fighting for us here.
John Sopkin, Colville.
Gretchen Hallra, the Executive Director of the Mayor's Office of the National Western Center at the city.
Paul Andrews, President and CEO of the National Western Stock Show.
Ann Hayes with Westfield Company.
Carrie Atia with Visit Denver.
Mark Rodman, History Colorado.
Juan Veloz, representando Elyria y Swansea.
Juan Veloz from Elyria and Swansea.
Jocelyn Hiddle, Colorado State University.
Tina Martinez, Denver Museum of Nature and Science.
HKS, Michael Brindle, HKS Architects.
Amy Burkett, HKS Architects.
Jeff Mack, I'm the Vertical Portfolio Manager for the Mayor's Office at National Western Center.
Dan Sullivan, Populous Architects.
Stuart Irving, Populous Architects.
Fred Michelson, Corral Creek Consultants.
Kai Holton Brown, National Western Stock Show. Marcy Locker, the Mayor's Office of the National Western Center.
Summer Westbrooks with Saunders Construction.
Jocelyn Robinson, Workforce Development Coordinator for the GIC.
Jessica Ardeen, Center for Community Wealth Building.
Trayvon Hamlet, Center for Community Wealth Building.
Catherine Paradise, Elyria Swansea resident.
Andrea Burns, National Western Center Authority.
Banks Benitez, Uncharted.
Sean McConkey, Hensel Phelps, HIC Logistics Manager.
Brian Penner with Hensel Phelps.
Robert Carpenter with Hensel Phelps.
Julia Highland, Hensel Phelps. Samantha Brook with Hensel Phelps.
Michael Tomlin, Cornell University.
Amalia Life SC, National Council for Preservation Education.
Leslie Leon, Communications for North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative Mayor's Office.
Anthony Aragon, Director of Community Engagement for North Denver Cornerstone Collaborative.
Grace Kinda, Uncharted.
David Johnson, SEH.
Chris Siderka, SEH.
Matt Barry, National Western Center Authority. Eric Anderson, Design Manager for the Mayor's Office of the National Western Center.
Great, that should do it. Anybody that we missed? Anybody came in late? Great. Couple of business items first. The committee members have received, I put a little extra piece of paper on your desk because I got this in my email just before I left my office. It is a press release announcing that the National Western Center Executive Director, one Gretchen Hallra, sitting right here, has been named WTS Colorado Woman of the Year. She was a little miffed that I put that out, but I think yeah, I'm going to be in big trouble for this. But so she has, we love Gretchen. Gretchen works hard and has been an amazing asset to this project, and we congratulate you, Gretchen.
Thank you.
And honor you. Okay, so we're going to start now with our partner updates, if we can. Let's see, we'll start with Mark.
I just want to remind everybody, it's not on your sheets that you got today, but that on Saturday, March 2nd at 9 o'clock, we'll be having our community gathering at History Colorado. And what that is to talk about some of the work we've done throughout different communities, and we'll be talking about Globeville, Elyria, and Swansea. So any of you guys that can come to History Colorado this Saturday, we'd love to have you there.
Jocelyn. Yep.
Can you send that email out again with that invitation to the CAC members?
Yep, you bet. Got it. Jocelyn Hill, Colorado State.
You all have updates there in front of you. I'll just add that since we sent these in, we have also finalized the selection of a design firm for our CSU Center for Food and Agriculture. So we're excited to have them on board. I think we mentioned last time that we have also selected a construction firm. They bid separately on our 2 facilities, but won both independently. So we have one construction team, which is probably going to be great. But they did actually bid separately on those 2 jobs and won both. J. Dunn Construction. So we now have selected all of our design firms and our construction firms. So that should make everyone feel really good about how soon we're going to actually be building some things on site. So that's really exciting, and we'll be deep in design with all of our teams throughout the rest of the year. I'll also just point out that our second annual Water in the West Symposium, which is technically an offering of the CSU system at National Western Center, will be in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from today. It starts actually on Wednesday, March 13th in the evening and runs through the day on the 14th. We have Gary Nell, who's the CEO of National Geographic, as one of our keynote speakers, and a whole slew of other people from around Colorado, around the country, who will be coming to talk about water and how it touches agriculture and how it touches recreation and the environment, how it impacts the state's economy, and how we can all work together to address Western water challenges. If you're interested in coming, please come see me, and I'll also be sure that we can get a discount code sent out to CAC members for registration if you would like to come.
And Tina from Denver Museum of Nature and Science.
Thank you. Also, you will see updates in the partner update list, but I did bring a couple handouts, some more information. This Saturday, after you go to History Colorado, you can head over to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science for Girls in Science Day. It's for girls, boys, and families to come explore different careers and options, women in science. It's a fun day, and it is free for any organized youth groups, and there's more information about how to sign up. We also have camp coming up this summer, youth camps, and we have scholarships available. So if you know young people who would like to go, please take a flyer.
Great, thanks. Now we have Paul from the National Western Stock Show.
Yes, the 2019 stock show, an amazing year, 700,000 plus guests again. That put us 2 times in a row that we've been over 700,000, which has only happened 3 times in 113 years. So, tremendous stock show, set records in the junior livestock auction, over $1 million, $1,000,027. Citizen of the West has been sold out for 3 months prior to the event, so record there. And Coors Art did tremendous too. So all of those will factor into a healthy scholarship trust, which supports the students that are going to college throughout Colorado and Wyoming. So that's very good news for us. We are busily working on Rodeo All-Star Weekend. That is coming up in 6 weeks from today, April 13 and 14, right here at the complex. And so ticket sales are on now and going well, and sponsorship is out pitching, and so we're getting ready for that. And this weekend the Horse Expo is here. Unfortunately, it's going to snow for 3 days, it looks like, and that's not going to help us at the Horse Expo. But great show if any of you want to come by the Horse Expo because you live close by. With that, happy to answer any questions anybody might have. If not, I'll turn it back to Liz.
Great, thanks. Do we have any questions? Armando?
I'd like to know if Paul Allen's going to be riding his buckskin horse at the Horse Show Expo this weekend.
That's a great question, Armando, but no, I actually will not be on top of that buckskin this weekend, but thank you. You are a witness that I actually can ride that horse, aren't you?
Paul, I don't have a question for you, sorry.
Excellent, that's great. You go right ahead.
I just checked that I had permission to share this, so hot off the presses, I'm sharing with you all some exciting news from CSU, which is that we are looking to have the National Western Center be the home of a program called Together We Grow, which is a consortium of ag companies that are focused on growing, and other organizations, NGOs, and universities that's focused on building a skilled, diverse, and inclusive workforce within agriculture. So this is a really big deal and a really exciting thing to have this organization living at National Western and helping us to implement these things that we all have identified as our own guiding principles for the project.
Great, thanks. So we're going to do a little, Dave Oletsky.
I don't have a question. I just want to thank you, Paul. You've done a wonderful job with the bus routes for the stock show, the way you revised it. And,
I can take zero credit for that, Dave, but I will pass that on to Ron Rohr. He would have revised that.
Yeah, that was, I mean, we could get there quick. I mean, it was good.
Good. No, I'll pass that along for sure, so thank you.
Jocelyn, I want to see if something I understand is correct about the Together. Say the full name again.
Together We Grow.
This is my impression of the National Western Center and CSU being force multipliers for each other. And I really feel like it's important to put this out if this is true. I get the impression that this was a competitive situation to get that, correct?
It was a conversation among a variety of different institutions and locations.
Well, I have the impression that the affiliation with the National Western Center as a potential link to the population to help the mutual mission of the two groups is one of the reasons why this is coming to Denver. And I appreciate CSU and I appreciate that, but I just feel like these are the types of things where if we can just be clear when these things happen, where the sum is greater than the parts, then we'll understand more about what we have here and where we can go with it and how to really truly brand it as a sum being the greater than the parts. So I just want to add that.
Thanks, A.E. And we've had a couple members join us, Jules Kelty from Focus Points and Jim Garcia from Clinica. And now we're going to do a little rearrangement on the agenda because Brad Buchanan's not here yet, and we also have a whole bunch of people here ready to do presentations. So we're going to move down on your agenda under National Western Center Campus, and we're going to do the phases 1 and 2 section, if that's okay with everyone, because we've got it all lined up and ready to go, and I'm going to turn it over to Gretchen to sort of facilitate that.
Thank you. We've got a number of folks in the room here to present. So to facilitate this, the director's report is really embedded in the rest of the materials. And if there are specific questions that aren't answered by the presentations that we have in this 45 minutes of phase 1 and 2 update, just let me know. What I'd like to do, I'm going to do we're going to do the same presentation we did this morning at the National Western Center Authority Board meeting. And I'm going to do one slide to get us started and then quickly hand off to Brian Penner, who is leading the horizontal integrated contractor team. And Brian, I'd love for you to introduce all the members of your team tonight, and if folks could say what their role on the program is. I know Sean already said logistics, but generally what that means. And once we get through then slides, we're going to show you how the site comes to life and how the component parts are sequenced together. Then I'd ask if Eric Anderson could come up and facilitate our next two teams, HKS and SEH. It says she on your sheet, and though I am a proponent of female empowerment, this is SEH that is here with us tonight. So what I do is, Brian, if you want to come up and get ready, let's go to the first slide that I have. So we always have a picture of the map in case we need to reference that. And it's the same map we've seen over and over again. The update on procurements that I wanted to share is that we did award our equestrian center and parking garage design and construction to Populous. If you are from Populous, there's Populous in the crowd. We are thrilled to have them on board. So that's a new award that's happened since our last CAC meeting. We do have an active procurement out right now for an RFQ for construction, CMGC construction on the equestrian center. The Livestock Center continues on its path, and you'll see the design and construction RFQ, request for qualifications, that's when we shortlist teams, request for proposals RFP occurring in 2019. So we are on track, but those are really, we've spent a lot of time here with you showing slide over slide of all of the procurements that have gone out the door. We're really at the end of that, and it's time to start building. And I think, can I share what I said at the authority board, that I call this section, let's build the damn thing already? So I've got the team that's going to build it here. Hensel Phelps has a $275 million contract across 5 years to do all of the horizontal work. They are the master of ceremonies, in essence, of that campus construction. So anything that's flat to the ground, utilities, roads, bridges, this is the team that has the oversight for that. That said, it's not just one big award. They also have the responsibility to let multiple contracts, bid awards, for the individual components of that work. And we made a specific decision, an intentional decision, to split out different types of work orders, type 2 and type 3 work orders, to allow maximum participation. So there are lots of firms that are going to come and perform this work, but they will do that under the oversight of this horizontal integrated construction contractor. We call it the HIC, and the leadership for that is Brian and the Hensel Phelps team.
Thanks, Gretchen. This evening we wanted to run through a little bit of the phasing that we've come up with, and then also give you introductions to our team. Again, I'm Brian Penner with Hensel Phelps, and the rest of our team is here. And I really don't do much, so listen to these guys. These are the ones that are doing all the work, and they put together a lot of brain power and a lot of energy into how we're going to go phase the project, and so they really need to be recognized for that.
Sean McConkey, Logistics Manager. That's a title for a guy who's been a superintendent for a long time, knows how parts and pieces come together. So my job is to try to make sure all of the puzzle pieces work together and we continue to move forward.
My name is Robert Carpenter. I'm a project superintendent with Hensel Phelps, and my responsibility is essentially the day-to-day construction operations for the HIC program.
I'm Julia Highland. I'm a project engineer. I'm working on our professional services, helping out with things like public information and workforce.
Samantha Brooke, project manager. I'll be working directly with Rob on the day-to-day operations.
They saved the best for last. Jocelyn Robinson, workforce development coordinator, and my responsibilities are to make sure that I'm making a positive impact in the communities, and making sure that our contractors, primes and subs, have the people they need to work on the projects.
All right, thank you. So just again briefly, our role on the project has been really twofold. One of them is to assist in the development of a more detailed phasing plan. I like to equate it to the work that had been done before we got here was a really good and comprehensive plan to accomplish the capital build phases 1 and 2 work between now and May 2023. We've taken it from that 5,000 foot level and tried to make it more granular, down to the kind of the 500 foot level is kind of where we're at today, and a more detailed plan to make sure that the path between now and May 2023 accomplishes all of the goals of the program. And then as Gretchen mentioned, we get the honor to the sexiest part of the program, all of the water pipes and the sanitary pipes and the storm pipes and all the roads, that's our work. So that's the other part of our contract with the city. So real quick, wanted to give you a quick overview on the things that have really driven us to the phasing that you will see here in a few slides. We've broken it down into 2 major categories. Existing drivers is what we're calling them, the drivers that exist today that we have to work around. And starting with the framework agreement. The framework agreement is the guiding document that oversees all of the decisions that are made on the program, and certainly something that we have to abide by. And one of the key drivers from the framework agreement is making sure that the stock show must go on. So we can't affect the operations of the stock show, and that has driven the way that we've come up with the phasing in a lot of ways. A couple of other things that are out on the site today the existing rail that cuts through the center of the site, that follows the existing National Western Drive, as well as the rail that boundaries the west side of the site that's along the existing riverfront. That has a lot of implications for the construction of the program and something that we've had to work around. Les Moutons is the building that's still out there today being abated and being demoed, which is where it sits on a large portion of the equestrian center footprint. And then as we move forward and look at the new construction and what the campus will look like when we're done in May 2023, there are several drivers that we have to work around. One of them is there's a 78-inch storm that comes from the east side of the site, gets to the existing tracks, and currently stops. That rail line has to get extended, and that's one of the drivers that we are definitely working around. The new rail alignment, the SYEC, and a few other things that Sean will get into a little bit more detail. But those are really the drivers to the strategy that we've put together and really helped inform the reasons why we've done what we've done in terms of packaging, sequencing, and assembling the work orders and task orders that Gretchen had mentioned.
Okay, so we got lots of numbers here. Can you see most of this? What we've got from a critical path, there's kind of two sides to the project. Like Brian had talked, we have our rails that encumber what progress we can do across them while they're still in place. We have the existing stockyards. They have to be maintained for about 2 years until we get the final completion more to the north. So we've got to keep that in tow. Like Brian had indicated, the first thing that's most important to both of these critical paths are the storm drain that has to run under the rail system, has to come up and get close to a new SYEC pad, cross the tracks, and then eventually head towards the river. What that does is allows this element to get the SYEC pad to go, which then in turn needs the maintenance facility to be done, so you can demo this piece, so you can put dirt back on it, so that you can move people from here to here. Then you can take that away, then you can build the new storm that's in Betty Cram, and then you can come over here and finally get to the livestock exchange, okay? This journey of 5 stops takes about 18, 24 months, depending on which one you're at, okay? What happens additionally, once this storm line's in, it allows us to put the railroad in place from point A to point B. Once that's done, we can then take out the rails so that we can install our sewer and our bridges and our open space. Okay, so the rail is very important, but for the rail to start, we need the storm drain in first. So it's kind of 1 to 2 to 3. 2 big paths, one on the east, one on the west.
And it's important to note that both of these paths basically take us from now till May 20.
You'll use the microphone, yeah.
I was just going to add that both of these paths basically take us from now till May 2023, and they're really head to tail. I mean, Sean's legwork through all of this phasing has basically said that if any one of these steps along the way has a hiccup, it will affect the outcome of that path. So they're really kind of head to tail, and they're drivers for the program.
Are we on the next slide? Okay.
You can answer this anywhere in your presentation, speaking of hiccups. What is the ramification and the status of the lawsuit regarding the railroad moving the tracks?
We'll let Gretchen answer that question.
No comment, no. No, it's something that we can't talk about right now because we are in a legal process, and that's a process at the federal level, obviously. It's also got a local piece and a state piece. So we are still on schedule, and we have built that legal process into our schedule so that we are still on track. That's the last pun I'm going to do.
That is the best non-answer I have ever.
18 years of government experience. Thank you. Thank you, A. No, I wish I could talk about it, but we really aren't allowed to talk about the legal strategy. The one thing that I would like to share with you is that there was some media about this that suggested that the city just walked away from the table. That's just simply not true, and that the Rock Island made some hostile actions on the site that we saw as hostile that showed us that they were not willing to negotiate, and then they didn't respond to further communication. So we actually would seek the opportunity to go through a mediation process, and that's our hope.
Okay, we're going to walk you through some of the things that are starting to happen. We're actually doing some work. Next week we will be out in the stockyards doing some historical salvage. Within a couple of weeks we will be doing some demo in the stockyards area. So that's good news. I like to get started because that gets you closer to the finish. So really what's going to happen early is some historical salvage here in Q1, which I talked about in a couple days. We'll get started there. That will also free up the demo plus the dirt and utility buildup to start our SYEC structure here shortly. So these two elements will be happening in Q1, finishing about Q2. By 9/1 we will have a pad ready to get started for SYEC.
And one thing that you'll see on these graphics, it may be hard to see from a ways, but the colors. So if you see yellow, that means that's work that we will be doing under our HIT contract. So it will be infrastructure, utilities, roads, those kinds of things. So if you see yellow on the graphic, that's work that we will be doing. In the coming slide, you'll see these areas turn to blue. Blue means that's the transition to the vertical work. So the buildings, and those kind of things will be represented in blue. And when they turn gray, you'll see gray, that means that area has been completed. Whether it's a road, a bridge, a building, if it turns gray, that's good, it means it's done.
I just want to interrupt for a second. If there are folks that can't see in the back and want to come up closer, Liz, can we break the rules on that? This might be hard for folks to see, particularly in the audience. So are we allowed to do that? To
Sure, if people want to come up around the edges or just
welcome
kind of
to come up if you want, or you can go with a
And
verbal overview.
I can do a better job of helping you. Here's existing National Western, okay, with the backdrop of what's going to be in the future. So if you're driving down that road, you're going to start to see activity, primarily in the stockyards in the next 3 months.
So you guys have been using an acronym that you're trying to throw everybody, because we're really good at acronyms, but SYEC, Stockyards Event Center.
Yep. It is a new building that will replace some of the functions of some of the existing structures that are out there today. If it's a new home, you have to build a new home before you can vacate the old, so that you can get ready to build something new where those used to reside.
And that's important, as Sean mentioned, because down there on the south end of the site is where the new legacy building goes. But before that, there's an existing auction hall that's out there on the site. And that's what Sean mentioned, the building that's there now is being used for, and the operations of that go into the Stockyard Event Center. So we can't demolish that building until the Stockyard Event Center has been completed. And the reason that's important is because Betty Cram Drive has a lot of utilities that go under Betty Cram Drive, and they go underneath the existing auction hall. So we can't start those utilities until the existing auction hall gets demolished. So that's some of the dominoes that has led Sean to really creating the phasing plan that he's come up with.
Do you have a date on when Betty Crab's going to be built?
You'll see it in here. We'll walk through the next 5 years, and so you'll kind of see in time roughly when we're thinking that will be done. You bet. Yep.
Oportunidad de empleo para el vecindario de Globio, Liria y Suecia. ¿Va a haber oportunidad de empleo?
Work opportunities or job opportunities for residents of Elyria, Swansea. Is there going to be some employment opportunities for the residents?
So we have Jocelyn, who is our workforce coordinator. Do you want to talk about the workforce efforts that we've been doing so far?
Well, we've developed some relationships already with some of the other contractors that are in this area from other projects. We're excited to get into that part of my work, and that's workforce development. We're also developing relationships with some of the neighborhood organizations that support the community. I was at Focus Points yesterday, and they were talking about how often they're going to be doing fairs and things like that. So we'll be incorporating a lot of those activities with things that are already going on here, and also adding something specifically for the HIC. So yes, there will be employment opportunities.
Yeah, and those will be, like Jocelyn mentioned, those will be advertised in the community, and it will be very visible when those workforce opportunities arise.
So we've got haul routes here. As far as, being a good neighbor, I want you guys to understand, up here Franklin to 51st, existing National Western, down and around here to 70 is where primarily most all the traffic will take place on the site. We've got nice egress. We don't have to be running through a neighborhood. So we've looked at this. We've got clearance with bridges. We've got decent roads. We've got the capacity. We've got nice routes to get to I-25, nice routes to Central 70. So this is about the area of influence. You shouldn't hardly know we're there. But primarily everything we're going to need to bring thousands of yards of dirt and lots of pipe is going to come in via the green that you see there. Now we're into quarter two, okay? So by the time quarter two, around 4th of July, you're going to start to see a wall start to build itself. That's where the future railroad will reside. When we get done, there'll be 3 tracks up here that will replace these tracks. You'll start to see that take shape. You'll start to see the underpass at Betty Cram Drive starting to develop, and we will be over here on the Equestrian Center starting to get that prepared for the Equestrian Center pad ready, which is important to get parking and other things moving forward as we go. So by the quarter two, we're going to start to see us in a lot more locations out there. By the time we get to quarter three, Lake Mouton is demoed. We move from here. Start developing the pad ready here. We got some walls to build, some utilities to do, and then we start to move down into the CSU parcels. So work continues here for the next year, and it continues up here. By the time quarter four rolls around, like Brian had indicated earlier, you start to see blue. Our job is now done in that little piece of land. We have access to it. And we have another contractor working here while we're working around them, and we're getting ready for other areas to get ready to turn blue. At the stock show, color-wise, this orangish color is everything that the stock show is going to need to function next year. We will have temporary pinning and other things that we've been working on the last 6 to 8 months. As we take this territory that the rail used, we relocate, reconfigure, but we get it back to a state that everybody can use for the stock show, and then we clean up and we go about our business the next year. Once again, existing National Western is still in place for the next stock show. There'll be some temporary facilities out in here and here to take what we took away from the existing stockyards.
Okay, so we're going to go through the phasing of the balance of the capital build phases 1 and 2 fairly quickly. Starting in quarter 2, really the only change from what Sean had mentioned, the maintenance operations building is now gray, so you see that that's turned over. Again, that's about a year from now. The CSU Animal Health pad has been turned over to CSU, so that's blue. So that again represents the start of their building construction. Equestrian Center garage is now blue, so the garage is being built at this point. The balance of the Equestrian Center arena is being constructed. The stockyards have expanded some. And then as we get towards the end of next year, major milestone. This is again the end of 2020, and you see we've turned all of this gray. That's a really important milestone, as we mentioned, because that represents the completion of the new rail alignment, which then, click to the next one. So for Stock Show 2021, what does it look like? Again, the rail is complete, and we're really starting to move all the operations to the north. So the existing stockyards are still being used, and we've also now accomplished and turned over more of the new stockyards for the stock show as well. And then the area around the maintenance building is available for their use to the north. So moving into 2021, a major development has occurred in the site. We've completed the rail realignment, which means that we need to go and finish the infill work where the existing National Western Drive is. And so what that means is we're going to shut off access through the site, basically for all of 2021. And you see here that we have X's along existing National Western Drive because we have to remove the rail here, and then we've also started to work on the riverfront. So that's kind of in time when we're starting to really see the riverfront work open up, which is the road or the bridges. It's new National Western Drive. And it really, again, it can't occur until we get the rail realigned, and that's the driver that Sean mentioned in the critical path. So moving on in the year, essentially all of the stockyards are under construction. Equestrian Center is fully in construction. Really the only change is now we've added a blue for the legacy or the livestock building. So the portion of the livestock building is now under vertical construction. You see the rest of livestock take shape. Legacy building is now being worked on. And your question about Betty Cram is now complete as well. So this is probably the end of 2021. Next one. The bridge is now complete, the pedestrian bridge to the east of the site. And so for Stock Show 2022, what does it look like? Essentially, all of the operations now for the Stock Show have been relocated to their permanent location. SYEC, the Stockyard Event Center, is complete. The stockyards themselves are complete, and the maintenance operations. So we've really made the migration to the north end of the site with all of the Stock Show operations. So moving into 2022, we're really starting to work on the infill. There's a big utility spine that runs between the equestrian building and the livestock. And so we're starting to fill in the spine of utilities between equestrian and livestock. You see riverfront taking shape. At this point, new National Western Drive has been constructed. There are a lot of utilities that go under new National Western Drive. It'll take us about a year to get the utilities under National Western Drive. The big pipes that you see down the riverfront, the Delgany, those pipes will be relocated so that we can open up and beautify the riverfront open space. As we move into the end of 2022, equestrian now has been complete and turned over. And then Stock Show 2023. So we're about 5 months from having capital build phases 1 and 2 complete. And what you see is it's essentially all done with the exception of the livestock arena and hall. And at this point in early 2023, again, this is really the only area that's still under construction. And this is May 2023. We're done. Ta-da. Now, one thing to note that Gretchen pointed out this morning, CSU Water Resources is not shown in the graphic. It's part of our phasing package, but we're currently working on integrating that into our plan. So it's part of the program, it just isn't represented here.
Do we have questions for the team?
Come see us in 5 years.
No, they'll be here. They don't have to come, they'll be here. No questions? Great. Gretchen?
I just wanted to close a couple of things to emphasize. One is this is really draft, so we just showed 5 years worth of work and a lot of things could change. When we reoriented the site plan and we walked through that with you, we made it much more complex to deliver. So we're going to be managing change the whole time. That's part of the reason why this is the one deck we're going to show you. It's still so draft that we will not be putting it out on the website yet, but we will be showing you year over year what we're doing, and especially as we have more certainty on what we find in the ground. Anything we find in the ground can change that. The second point I wanted to make is just to be really clear that folks notice that to get to the riverfront, it's the end of our work program. The bridges in the riverfront, because we have to land the bridges, there is a rail line in the way, the Delgany Interceptor is in the way. So everything sequences off each other. That's actually the last piece we're able to get to because we're not able to clear the site. And it's it's part of the site that's the most important to this community and to the Denver 2C voters. It's just how the site has to sequence, and I just want to be completely clear and upfront about that. And then last, I want to thank our team because we found an incredible team to do this delivery of work. They took the work we'd done, they broke it apart, they repackaged it, and you saw what they were able to do, and they have been incredible partners, so thank you. All right, now I'm going to hand off to Eric Anderson so we can walk through our next two presentations. Wow.
All right, good evening. So tonight we're going to see two presentations. We're going to start to bring the vertical work to you guys so you can start seeing what's going on with the buildings. So the first two tonight are maintenance and operations, and then the Stockyards and Stockyards Event Center. The process that we're using is when these teams go to the saddle, the design review committee that Gretchen and Brad lead, they're required then that same month to come and present that same presentation to you guys. So you guys are seeing all this at real time. We want your comments and input on these buildings. And so these are the first two that are coming your way tonight. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Mack, from our vertical portfolio manager, who will introduce the teams.
Hi, good evening. So I'm going to take you down to the 50-foot level in many ways. So we've been working lockstep with the HIC to make sure that the coordination that you just saw Brian go through really does meet the schedule that we require as we get to the facility. So the first group I'm going to bring up is SEH. They are designers on the maintenance and operations facility. This is the existing area up off of Race Court. It was known as the Rocky Mountain Colby Pipe building. We've taken 2/3 of that building down. So the other thing that my group has been doing is actually doing all of the demolition on site to clear those buildings over the last 12 months or so. And so getting that ready, and as Brian indicated, for the maintenance building that you'll see and the design group will go through, is to get that ready so that we can clear the yards in about a year from now. And so this building, this should start with construction in about the June or July timeframe and take about a year to complete. And so by the spring of next year, this facility will be complete. And we have already brought on Gerald Phipps as our contractor. They're under a CMGC, so they're working with us to do the pricing right now and go through that. So again, I'm going to introduce David Johnson and Chris Sigat-Sahara to help us understand what the look of the maintenance and operations building is going to be. David?
Thank you, Jeff. Again, I'm David with SEH, and Chris and I will describe a little bit about it. SEH is an unfortunate acronym for a business because Microsoft Word will always correct it to she, so nobody's fault there.
That's my problem.
Anyway, Paul, Brad, I thought I saw Brad here, and Gretchen and the rest of the CAC, thank you very much for having us. We're very fortunate to be selected for this project, and even though it's way up here at the far north end, maybe not the sexiest property on the project, we've taken it very seriously and taken it to heart, and enjoying working with this program and the requirement very much so. When we try to keep the 9 guiding principles in mind when we go through the design on this, a couple that really have stuck with us is celebrating Western heritage as well as creating a fun and exciting experience as much as we can. Truly, our mission is to relocate a lot of the existing facilities or functions in the facilities, both the Aetna building and other spaces around on the campus currently that Brian and Sean had mentioned early. So our building is very important in the overall scheme of things and an important puzzle piece, and we take that to heart. We need to get all these functions moved and relocated and provide the kind of space and an attractive space in the process for its use for the rest of the campus. One thing you'll note is we're at the far north end here, and even though we're somewhat back of house, we've recognized that you will be able to see this from a distance, and you'll see that some of our choices in design and the use of graphics recognizes that, and in our effort to make it an interesting and exciting design, we've done some nice things, and I'm going to turn it over to Chris to describe some of the design elements.
So yeah, I guess just like David mentioned, I guess we were given kind of like a rectangular building, which is like really basic, but we kind of just treated like that's going to be our canvas. So the way we did it, I guess we have an approach of like the buildings having 2 sides, because the north side of the building is actually facing race court, so we're treating that as a human scale, so everything will be on a smaller scale and then just like a nice entrance. But on the back side, we're thinking about like having, because you can see it, as you can see from the previous campus, I guess you can, the back side of our building is what we can see all the way throughout the campus, so we need to make it on the larger side, on the larger scale. So we have larger scale on the south side and then the smaller scale on the north side. So we are trying to do some kind of architectural gestures that you probably are wondering why did you do that tower in the front. That's actually dual purpose because we do have to solve the egress and accessibility issues for the building. Because inside the building there's actually a mezzanine level, so we have to provide some kind of an egress, and because of the size of the mezzanine floor area, we do need to have two egresses. So we have to provide the elevator shaft there that we found out that we couldn't do it inside the building, so we have to put it outside, and why not make it something big and architectural. So we are also trying to use some of the materials that actually was mentioned earlier as part of the historic salvage. So we are using, like as you can see here in the front, we are using some of the wood slats from the stockyards. We are just trying to use some of the heavy timbers from the other buildings. So we are trying to use multiple materials that are kind of, in a way, local, I guess, to the campus, but adding some new materials as well that will be that will stand all the abuse, I guess, that the site might possibly take. So yeah, on the back side, on the south side, it's actually pretty plain if you think about it. There's just like a lot of CMU walls that in a way it's not very pleasant looking. So we wanted to add something that's not like over the top, but just still making a statement for the larger scale for the campus. So we added some kind of like silo or grain elevator building looking that's also dual purpose, which is like also providing the egress on the back side of the building. So yeah, and then also I guess we probably cannot miss the super graphics that we put on the building, but we wanted something that's really big in scale so that you can see it from afar. You can see it from I-70 hopefully, if it's not blocked by the train or the other buildings. So yeah, so these are the elevations that we have. Yeah, so the north, sorry.
I just wanted to mention that if anyone's familiar with the existing building out there, the Colby Pipe Factory, it is a large, in total 60,000 square foot rectangle, CMU sidewalls, high bay, double T construction, and it's a wonderful space in which to put in all the different functions that we need here. We've got maybe even a little bit of extra room. But we didn't want to be left with just a basic blank wall at the end of the day. And given the position of this thing at the far north end, just as Chris mentioned, its impact on the site is actually somewhat small, and we want to be a bit bigger than that. So we've included these cues and these icons to the Western heritage, as well as some really fun large graphics. So we think this design is very fun. We think it'll be a nice little jewel at the far north end of the campus that everyone that visits will enjoy.
So yeah, this is the first floor plan. Like I mentioned earlier, I guess it is a rectangular building. So what you can see in yellow, this is where all the fleet maintenance will happen. And then on the other side, in the blue side, that's the storage. And those two areas are pretty high. They're going to be 20 feet tall to the existing height of the roof. And then what you see in the green and the orange, this is the mezzanine level above. So underneath the mezzanine, we will have all the offices and all the admin areas. We will be housing the parking management, the workshops, the police, the volunteers, check-in, the human resources in this building. And as you can see, it is a pretty big area of the mezzanine and the area underneath it. So we do need 2 egresses, so that's why we created this silo in the back and then the front entrance in the back. And we added also a stair just for the secondary egress. And this is the mezzanine level. So this is where all the training and orientation for the volunteers will happen. We will also be housing the command center in the green area on the top there. And I guess wanted to mention as well is we made the silos slightly taller than what's needed for the egress from the second floor, because we wanted to use that potential for viewing platform for the entire site to the south. Do you want to talk about that site?
This is kind of an enlargement of the site. You'd seen the overall site in the previous images by HP. In general, a quick run around the building. Here's the high bay section that, of course, we're showing you. Here is another part of the building, existing building, low bay, and this is office space that's being converted right now that Jeff's crew and others will be moving into actually rather soon. We're going to keep parking for them and for other administrative services on this side. And then we have a defined paved area that allows for vehicle movement. Of course, we're maintaining buses and all kinds of vehicles on the campus, everything from Caterpillar equipment to tractors and whatnot. And we're creating a maintenance area that they'll be able to service all these different types of vehicles in. On the front side, this is an area that's somewhat segregated by some fencing here, as well as a secure area back here so we can keep animals out and away from the race court area. But this is accessible to both administrative personnel up here, visitors, as well as the large influx of volunteers during the stock show. And then, of course, the cattle ties, you're seeing that in the 3 weeks of stock show, 2 and 3 weeks. We can convert the site to upwards of 4,000 cattle tie areas for the tie outs during the show. So that's pretty much our presentation. Any questions? Yes?
Hold on. Is that you, Drew?
So I don't know where to place this, but it has. This is a materials selection thing, and I know it's way down the road. At 51st in Washington, at the old Wester camps, I hope people that do materials selection can walk in there. I don't know, have you been in there yet, John, the new restaurant? Well, there is a counter built out of beetle kill pine that is exquisite. And I would really encourage exploring that material. It is amazing, and what a lesson that is too. And it's right in keeping with using resources in a way that. But check out that beetle kill pine.
We'd love to see that.
Yeah, food's great too. Don Juan's.
And Don Juan's.
Right where the old Wester camp is, at 50th in North Washington.
So what we have is a lot of wood on the campus. I just have to point that out because as we take the current pens down, you're going to see that wood also all over. You saw it in this building, you'll see it in the Legacy building, you'll see it in the other buildings we're designing. And we have so much of it. We also have a 90% diversion goal on the program for all of the reusable materials. So before we get to beetle kill, we may give you some wood.
Well, no, that's fine, but throw it in there. You never know what
Yeah.
will open up.
No, and the idea.
Part of the artwork.
The idea is to have the site be both local and part of Colorado, and that's definitely a part of Colorado story.
It's all added to the convention. Added.
Any others? Yes?
And
I'm just curious if any sustainable, I mean, you just mentioned some with the beetle kill and all of that and the reclaimed wood, but are there other energy efficiency kind of components to this building? I know that there's going to be a whole program for the entire campus. Does it start to get integrated now? And are there any features you can speak of?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked that, actually, because we didn't even touch on it. We are going to accommodate photovoltaics on the roof, number one, and that's part of an overall campus-wide energy program. But also, in the process of us meeting our LEED requirements, we will be selecting materials that satisfy sustainability requirements, including reuse of existing products, for instance, in carpets and whatnot, low VOC materials, and efficient lighting. So the entire program, but we are very excited about the materials that Chris was pointing out. We're reusing some wood, and we just had a blast going around the campus and working with personnel in selecting wood from stockyard and whatnot, things that would have just been trash otherwise, but they're just a gold mine to us to be using on this project.
Other questions? I have one acronym question, CMU. Is that?
CMU, Concrete Masonry Unit Block.
Thank you. Blocks.
Concrete
blocks. There you go. It's that stuff. Concrete blocks. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a comment? No? There you go.
So if you could switch the presentation, we'll have HKS come up. Thank you, fellas. Appreciate it. And so that's our first facility. The second is the Stockyard Event Center. And that's the facility that really does need to be done by the Stock Show 2021 that really unlocks the rest of the site as we go through that. So here recently, over the last year, we've selected HKS as the designer. And so I have Amy Burkett and Michael Brendel that are here tonight with us. So this facility will be starting construction as the folks from HP pointed out. They'll have a pad ready by September of this year. And so October is when our plan is to get an early package out for underground utilities and foundations to get that going. And then the building package really just after Stock Show of next year of 2021 to be ready really, or sorry, after Stock Show 2020 for being ready for Stock Show of 2021. And so HKS is going to lead you through the design aspects of this. We also have selected Adolphson and Peterson as our construction partner on the project as well. So they'll be starting their pre-construction efforts here along with us as we go through and develop this design as well. So Amy and Michael, it's all yours.
All right, thank you so much. We have a short presentation for you. We're a few months behind the last group, so we've just presented to Saddle, and we've been working through the program with Kai and her team. So we're screaming along pretty fast. This needs to be open by the Stock Show of 2021. So we're hoping to be done with our construction documents by October. So it's kind of push and pull, and it's going great. We're really excited and having a great time with it, and had a blast hanging out behind the scenes of the Stock Show. So we put our building into a software that we have within our office, and have a little bit of a walk-through, fly-through for you to see the perspective and how you enter into the facility, and enter into the campus and toward our building. And Mike will be giving you play-by-play action.
Thank you. So this is the SYEC, as it was called earlier.
Did you give it?
What's the square footage on that facility?
It's about 40,000 square feet. So the problem with videos is they're so large oftentimes, they're difficult.
It'll be a multi-purpose center in Nebraska.
It is a multi-purpose center, and it's going to actually replace the auction center that's there now, as well as the little Pepsi Show Arena that's out in the middle of the stockyards. And so both of those are the two main components of the facility, but it also has an extraordinary amount of, we believe, multi-use for other facilities to come in, where the auction house can be used as a movie theater, perhaps. It can be used as a lecture hall. Different.
Portable pins for the animals coming through the auction. I'm thinking like the buffalo.
Yes, yes. They'll be able to walk through the facility and into the auction arena and back out again. We have to be very cautious of the buffalo, of course, and how that goes. But if you recall, right next to this, and we'll see it in a minute, the pens will be, buffalo pens will be permanent, whereas the cattle yard will be portable. We'll be able to move those pens out of the way and to open that up for all kinds of outdoor festivals and concerts and other events that may come along that could use the facility. So we're looking at a very multi-purpose kind of facility and thinking very hard about all the things that we can do to keep things as flexible as possible and still meet the demands of the stock show, specific requirements of the stock show as well.
You can put any cool electronic features in there.
I'm sorry?
You can put any different electronic features in there, like different angles of the animals or draw the audience and put rooms in there.
We were talking about a system of putting monitors in so that you'll be able to have better visibility than you do now, and to keep track of even other events that are occurring in other facilities so that you'll know that, at a certain time I can get up and go to this building to see that particular event, things like that. That's part of a campus-wide program that I think is being worked on right now.
Having some technical difficulties because this was supposed to be a video, but it's actually came downloaded in a PDF format. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Let's just walk through what we have.
Well, she's saying if she has if we can.
Oh, I have a thumb drive with it. You want?
No, because they don't have flash on there.
Yeah, no, we can't do the video because there's not the right flash player on here. So, there you go. So that's going to give you.
I'm sorry?
Can you just go through?
Seating capacity in the auction arena is going to be about 600, and the seating capacity in the arena will be about 1,000. Be 500 seats on each side of retractable bleachers. So we can open that up again as part of that flexibility and multi-purpose use we had before.
Sorry about that. I have flash on my computer, but Liz doesn't have it on her. So our video is not animated. So you're going to see some stills here.
So this is the main entryway of the building, and what we looked at was, did a study on barns. And one of the things we looked at in particular were the barns of the prairies and the mid part of the country and this region of the plains, and discovered that really they're very simple barns. You don't get into the fancy gambrel barns or the big Dutch type barns until you get back closer to the East Coast, as many of you probably know. And so we took those kinds of materials, which typically were very simple forms, vertical wood, sort of a weather gray color, most of them, unless they were painted, and very few were painted. And so that's sort of the image of the barn that we took to use as this. This is sort of the jewel of the stockyards. It's also along with the water tower, which will be relocated right to the adjacent corner of the site. It is sort of the gateway into the stockyards themselves. And so as you come around the building and you come from the water tower, which will be just off to the left in this view, which the video would have beautifully shown you, you can see how you will enter the building. This area, this piece right here, this being the main entryway, gables on the front of the building. And then on the side right here is the bar what we call the auction bar at this point, on the corner of the building, and up above will be the international guest room for use during the stock show. There's a deck that runs around the outside of it, and then catwalks that move across the back of the building and then out into the yard on both sides of the building, one side overlooking the cattle pens and the main plaza, the other side overlooking the permanent buffalo pens. Here on the site plan, and I'm sorry this is smaller than the other site plans, but our building, as Hensel Phelps was pointing out, is located right here. And we're surrounded by all of the stock pens and the stock yards, as you can see, right on this corner right here, at the end of this pedestrian mall down the middle of the project, is the relocated Armor water tower. And so that will be a real gateway, a real focal point through the yards. We talked about the transit facilities over here, and the bridge comes right across here and down onto this site. So all sides of this building, or the three main sides of this building, are going to be very prominent as you enter the site and move through the site. With regards to the floor plan, just quickly, this is the auction arena side. You'll enter through these doors and into this arena. Here's the pen where typically now you would see the animals as they're being auctioned off or shown. And then the support offices around the outside of that with the auction bar and the restrooms, so on and so forth. And then the opposite side is the show arena with retractable seating. We talked about 500 seats on each side of the main arena, and we have a variety of doors around the outside of the building to facilitate movement of animals, people, equipment in and out of the building as events change. Then on the upper floor, you can see the upper side of the bowl for the auction arena. Again, our seating here is 600 fixed and another 400 that would be flexible seating. So we can get up to 1,000 people in that area, along with the international guest room up here as support facilities. And then the upper side of the arena on the back side, there will be balconies that overlook one side into the other. And there will be video conferences, we talked about a minute ago, capabilities inside the auction arena as well. The front of the building is focused on two large gables that we actually took the design. There's an old hay barn that's on this property, and it's going to be renovated and moved into a new location. And it's composed of these wonderful bow truss sort of shapes and cable straight, really rods and cables at the bases of those trusses. And so we're going to emulate those and use those as a symbol through the wash buildings, the front of this building, and some other facilities we have, and use that as a theme for this building architecturally. Down the sides, you can see the catwalks come across here from the front of the building, this being the bars again. And then on the other side, there's a stairway as you come off of the transit facility. You could come in and come up the stairs into the auction arena above. You see the various doors along the sides for storage and equipment. And then the back is very utilitarian as it faces out into the stockyards themselves. And that, unfortunately, is all we have since we didn't have that wonderful video. And I'm telling you, this video was wonderful.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe we can get a link to it that I can put on the CAC site if that would be.
Sure, be happy to.
Yeah, we'll work on that. So do we have questions of these guys about the? Oh, John.
I see that you took your cues from the pole barn aspects of the west that are there. I was wondering if you just had any look at some of the monitor barns that were also in there from a standpoint of having those clear story windows. I just on the site, the stadium arena has many of those aspects of a monitor barn, even though it's more of a oval or circular shape as opposed to the linear aspect of the monitor barn. And from an arena standpoint, because you have that straight line of symmetry in that, I was just wondering if that opportunity showed itself, or if that was something that was a cost factor that you had to bring out of it or anything.
Probably the main piece there is natural daylight into the arenas is not desirable. And so we are trying desperately to incorporate as much natural daylight into our project here, and we are pursuing LEED Gold and some of the same strategies that the last group mentioned are being incorporated into this project too. But natural daylight is actually a problem for us in any auction and any event.
Got a question from Betty?
I got a little lost in there, so it might have been mentioned, but I know I was told that the old horse and mule barn that was there where the parking lot is now was incorporated into that auction. I don't know if where or what it was.
It's not, and I don't know where that is actually going.
That is going to be moved on to they're going to, in my understanding, it's not part of our project specifically, but do you want to talk about it?
So we refer to that as hay barn number 3, and it's where the existing maintenance building and operation happens now. So our other team that's designing the new maintenance building to build that, to vacate hay barn number 3, and it's actually surrounded by some other pieces of building. So we're actually going to do a selective demolition around hay barn number 3, and then ultimately it will be moved. It sits right in the middle of the yards here, very close to where the Stockyard Event Center will be. And we're going to move it over toward the edge of the stockyards and actually return it to the use for fee and hay storage during stock show. And so it's going to return to its original use, and will be restored there and be along National Western Drive as an entry into the stockyards from National Western Drive.
All right, Liz just said do a conclusion. So I will conclude by thanking all of our teams here tonight, and especially for adapting on the fly and having slides ready. All the teams in the back. Brian, this is his second presentation today, and this is something that we expect of our teams, that they are sharing this information real time with the CAC. So as you see things and as there are other materials you want us to bring forward, we will. All, as I think Jeff and Eric mentioned, all of the design teams will come here as they go through their initial saddle design review process. So more to come, and we'll post the video. I really want to thank all the folks that joined us tonight that are working so hard on phases 1 and 2. And hopefully they'll become familiar faces as we're all out and about and on the campus. So thus concludes the campus construction segment of your agenda. Except Derek has 2 slides left.
So I just wanted to give everyone an update on the public art piece. We've been here the last 2 or 3 months talking about public art. So we're continuing to move forward with that. So the goals for our art, we're trying to create a campus that has pieces of art that people can move through the campus. So you can go and kind of help direct you around the campus. We want to connect to this overall campus theme. We've done a lot of cultural work. We've done a lot of historic work. We want to connect those artists to that history and bring that forward. So we also want to connect the new campus to the culture of the place and the surrounding neighborhoods. So we're going to involve the neighborhoods and the community in these public art selections, and we're getting ready to start those here shortly. We want to really tie the site together and be able to tell the story here, and then focus on public art pieces in the landscape and the building exteriors. We want to keep the public art program that we're doing right now. Most of this work we want to be outside so people can see it all the time rather than hiding it in the buildings. Now there are plenty of public lobbies in these buildings too, but we want to focus on that right now. So,
Here, a quick question.
Go ahead.
So on the maintenance facility, the graphic?
Yes, that is not art. Super graphics are not public art.
Well,
we talked about it, but
okay.
yeah. But let me go through one more slide and then we can.
There's a 1% for art program, but you did a great job putting them on that building.
That's right. So these are the focus areas that we have talked about as far as our working group, and I just want to run these by you. The order they're in is the order that the projects are moving forward, the design teams are there, and we need the artists to be integrated with those teams. So the first one is the Arrival Plaza, which is kind of this main plaza that goes through the campus.
we're looking at getting that selection committee started now. The second one then is Betty Cram Drive. There's plenty of opportunities for art within the right-of-way along Betty Cram Drive. The third one is the river bridges. We have 2 bridges that we want to do art, whether it's gateways or whatever. That'll be a focus point. The next piece then is the riverfront. We've got lots of opportunities in the riverfront for public art. So we'll probably have 2 or 3 selections for that. And then the last 2 is the Armor Admin and then the Armor Water Tower. We don't know if that'll be 1 artist, maybe 2, but we've talked about could we do lighting on the water tower that would also be art. Something like that. So as we get through these, the art group will put together kind of a theme and what we're trying to look for in each one of these components, and it may be 1 or multiple pieces in each one of these. And then we will pick the committee, and then we'll put this out for a request for qualifications or proposals from artists. I've heard that they get anywhere from 200 to 300 submittals in these things, so it may be a lot to look at. We'll see how it goes. And then we'll pick the artist, they'll work with the design team, and we'll move forward and get that art into the project. So, any questions on art right now? Betty?
Just curiosity, I wondered if did they ever discover or find those 2 gargoyles that were on top of that National Hotel? Probably in somebody's front yard somewhere.
Probably, we haven't found them yet. So.
Harry, concerning the water tower, I would encourage you and people you work with around that. I think that the water tower could use a lot of electric artwork to make it a star attraction to the National Western Center.
We don't disagree. I mean, a good lighting artist can do a lot.
I think that would be a
fun
tremendous
things.
opportunity.
Yep, we agree.
Great. Other questions about the art?
Oh, David's got one.
Now, Eric, during construction, there are going to be temporary walls and things. Are you guys going to do any art on that to beautify why?
We haven't talked about that. Is Marcy still here?
No, she's not.
But that's a good idea, so why don't we take that back in, and I don't know, Brian, if your team has thought about any of that, but why don't we take that back? That's a great idea, and it's something that a lot of projects do, so thank you for bringing it up.
Any other
Okay.
questions? Okay, so
Thank
now,
you.
thanks guys. So at this point, we're gonna switch gears and we're gonna go from, as Gretchen said, build the damn thing to fill and program the damn thing. So we're gonna have Brad come up and we have Matt here and we're gonna switch gears a little so we'll get set up here and then we'll move on to the next section. So now we're going back up to the top of the agenda on the National Western Center Authority report. And John, while we're getting set up, and if you want to unplug and plug in, while we're getting set up, I don't know, John, do you have any report from today that you wanted to give? Do you have anything you want to say from the board meeting today, just as your member report?
No. In the interest of us moving this along, I think most of the important stuff has been presented, so I yield.
Okay, perfect. I didn't want you to miss the opportunity. Great. All right. So, Brad, are you turned on? And I'm just going to turn it over to you.
Hello. Check. Sibilance. So we've talked a lot about the National Western Center Authority. We've talked about build it, fill it. So what does fill it mean? We're worked for a lot of years to get to this point, and we're to the place now where we're going to start thinking about how we activate this campus in real ways. Lots of ideas out there. Folks have lots of ideas, and this is about bringing voice to that. The National Western Center and the vision around it has asked a lot of really big questions. This is just one of them. How are we going to feed 9 billion people on the planet in 2045? The vision to be the global destination for agricultural heritage and innovation. I think all of us probably have a definition and we understand in our heads and our hearts what that means to us, but how do we define success for that? How do we say we've done that? The mission: convene the world at the National Western Center to lead, inspire, create, educate, and entertain in pursuit of global food solutions. Okay. The guiding principles: embrace an ethic of regeneration, grow local, regional, and global intelligence, create fun and entertaining experiences, be pioneering, break trail, and foster innovation, build cultural crossroads, inspire health and wellness, celebrate Western heritage, engage the river and nature, community and neighborhood integration. The master plan goes into detail and depth about this and it doesn't get to strategies, but it gets to more definition around the vision statements. So we've been imagining this place a lot, and the partners have been implementing that vision. CSU and National Western and History Colorado and lots of others are doing stuff now. Things are being done, things are starting to happen all around implementing the vision and the mission of the National Western Center. But we've been imagining a lot. We imagined with the entire city. We talked about the mission and the vision, and the city said yes in overwhelming numbers. In all of the 72 voting precincts, 2C passed. And overall, I think it was 74% or something like that. It was 70?
68.
68? Yeah. That still rocks.
It was great.
Yes, sir.
Brad, I just want to say something here today relative to 2C.
Here you go.
A lot of the people in this room right now were involved in 2C. Ann Hayes at the Democratic gathering, the school, when I spoke on 2C, and there were people there in opposition, she took a brave step in backing me up and supporting 2C. And publicly, I want to thank you for, 5 years later? Jim Garcia was out there working with us. Juan Veloz out there working with us. A.E. Armando Payan. Dave Waletsky helped on it. There's other people that are not here. People worked very hard on 2C because that was the most important effort at that time. And we took some heat, but we overcome it and got past overwhelmingly.
And you were on the right side of history.
Yes.
And we've planned. We've done a lot of planning, starting with neighborhood plans, Roundup Retreat, the National Western Center Master Plan, One West, the Framework Agreement, the whole host of, these are the placemaking family of documents and that NUCO and their team have been working on. We have thought a lot about what this place could be. So here's what we said. These are words from the master plan, and this is just a snippet. This is one section of the master plan. Foster the crossing of cultures locally, regionally, nationally, and internationally. Reflect, respect, and celebrate the meaning of the Western way of life. Honor the connection between land and people. Foster global linkages to advance cutting-edge R&D. Celebrate interdependence of natural, social, and economic systems. There's probably no one who's going to look at those statements and say, that's a bad thing. Those are good things. They say big things. But what does it mean to experience that on the National Western campus or around programs that are created through the National Western Center? Go ahead. So here's what we know so far in terms of the facilities, in just phase 1 and 2. The buildings as planned right now, west of the tracks, just in phase 1 and 2, 1.3 million square feet. The outdoor space, the plaza and outdoor experience space, a little over 1 million square feet. 2.371 million square feet west of the tracks. That's with CSU, with the legacy building also included in there. And the way we look at it, on the fill it side of the equation, is it's not just a how much, it's a how long equation. So we made up this phrase called square foot days, just to impress upon you the significance of the resource. 2,371,000 times 365 days a year is 865 million square foot days. That's our job. That's our job. That's the opportunity, right? That's the possibility. Oh, and it doesn't include, that is not including the P3. So again, ease of the tracks more. So here we are today, 2019. You were formed in 13, master plan funding ballot in 2C in 15, NewCo, Mayor's Office of the National Western Center formed, framework agreement signed, authority board formed here in 2018, and we're in 2019 right now, just in case you were curious what year it was. Go ahead. And like I said, lots underway already. Partners are out there doing things, focus points and grow house and working with partners in the community, stuff happening all over this community. A lot of it. This is just touch points of them. Construction started in 2018. But here's what has to happen the next 3 years or so. One, we have to stand up the market and the brand of the place. We can't just build it and then they will come. We have to program it. We have to be thinking long and hard about what's the right things to happen here the other 11 months of the year. And we have to figure out all the systems and operations. And I'll go into those in just a little bit more in a second. Go ahead. So marketing. We have to create the sense and the understanding of this place, the National Western Center. We have to create pent-up demand so that when the gates open on that first day, there's a whole bunch of people banging them down. We need to be marketing to the potential partners, because it's not just the users, it's the folks who are going to create the programs and the content and all that that are going to make the place so amazing. And we have to think about how we craft event incentives so that we can attract those folks to come here, the folks who we want to go get, who may not think of us right offhand. Programs. We have to continue to realize and leverage our existing partner relationships. We have to think about 4 seasons worth of activation. Create new partnerships that I talked about. New partnerships with the community, GES and the citizens of Denver and the opportunities that could exist there. We need to match make. We need to find folks who are funders, with people who have great ideas, with people who have half an idea and people who have the other matching half of an idea that are going to help each other get things done from start to finish. And we have to think beyond the sticks and bricks. We have to think about the virtual experience of the National Western Center, because we're going to be a global experience, and a lot of folks are going to first experience us online and may only ever experience us online. And then systems and operations. This piece up top, institutionalize a pipeline for new partnerships and innovation, is to me as important in this process as anything else. This is about setting up a framework so that we are constantly inviting innovation. This is not about building a roller coaster that operates on opening day and we just maintain the roller coaster and people come and ride it every Saturday. We're going to build a new roller coaster every stinking day for 100 years. So it has to be a new and changing experience that has to constantly be innovated and curated and a new experience for the users all the time. We have to figure out how to curate the experience. How do we decide that? How do we decide if something hits the mark on mission and vision and implementation, the experience of the National Western Center? We have to figure out all the campus-wide services. There's a lot of them. I'll go through them in a minute. We have to prepare for the triangle with the P3 partner that's going to be selected in the next year or so. And we have to set up our workforce development program to help prepare job seekers who are going to work here on the campus. So this slide is to talk about the authority. And we spent a lot of time, it's such a complex project team to stand all this up, trying to clarify roles, and we have to. Gretchen and I spent a lot of time in presentations to lots of people describing what the difference between the authority, Mayor's Office of the National Western Center, National Western Stock Show. Nobody gets to name anything else with the 2 words National Western in it, please. But folks, to clarify what the authority is charged with through the framework agreement, first and foremost, we we, everyone in this room and everyone in the community, are the National Western Center. Right now, it's important to understand the difference in our swim lanes. We have to function effectively, and everybody needs to know who to go to with what questions and answers. But 10 years from now, they're not going to know the difference, nor do we care for them to know the difference between NWC and the National Western Center Authority. It's going to be the National Western Center. That's the experience everybody's going to have. So you have to start to think about that bigger picture possibility. And that vision and leadership is coming from all these partners. From the founding partners and the programming partners, City and County of Denver, our most important partner, the community that's invested in this incredible vision. We have to market, as I said, we have to stand up that brand. And then in the category of programming and design, the framework agreement says things like this: govern, oversee, manage, maintain, and operate the campus. Finance, program, design, and construct any additional facilities. Create a community investment fund. Tenant and facilities agreements, scheduling and entering into use agreements for events that require use of the campus facilities. And then the campus-wide services, everything that you can think of that it takes to operate this campus after it's constructed day to day. Common area maintenance, telecommunications, energy, beverage, concessions, audiovisual, wayfinding, waste management. You can imagine it's an extensive scope of work to operate a 250-acre campus. That's our job. That's all of our job. So we've thought a lot about this. We've imagined a lot. We're starting a lot already. But now the question is, how do we define success? What does it look like? That's the authority's job now, is to start to create these activations, stand them up, so that all of you say that we hit the mark, So that's why we're standing up this process we're calling the Strategic Implementation Plan. The Strategic Implementation Plan is about starting this process, and the culmination is a work plan. Deciding what's most important to do first. Who's going to do it? How long is it going to take? What's it going to cost? Who's going to pay for it? All those kinds of things are what we're about to embark. And to explain the pieces and parts of that, Matt Berry is our Chief Development Officer. He's been to other CACs before, and I may have introduced him. But Matt is in charge of our programs and partnerships, and is a National Western Center Authority employee now for about 4 weeks or so, I think. He'll be the project manager on the SIP.
Hi, everyone. I wish we were all closer, but it is what it is. As Brad said, 4 weeks on the job and have been absolutely inspired by all the opportunity that this project provides. To me, it creates this amazing anchor between community impact and global impact. And I think I can't think of a project that I'd rather be a part of, and a project that has more relevance for my community and the global community. So as we're thinking about the strategic implementation plan, we're trying to do it deliberately to open up the aperture and open up the view of ideas that we could find to help create the right programs, partners, events that meet the vision of the National Western Center. You can go to the next slide, Brett. So we've worked on kind of at a due diligence level just to get ready to where we are today. So we're here kind of late February. Tomorrow will be in March. We've been having a series of stakeholder meetings across the region with local community actors, our board, other members, to learn and try to get level set on what is the current state within the National Western Center. We've been developing our understanding of a framework that we think would be effective in developing this strategic implementation plan. And then we are here today to kind of update you all and get your feedback. Next slide. So here's what we're going to try to do, and this is a little bit of a different flavor from what might look like a traditional strategic planning process. We're going to launch a local and global call for ideas. So the idea that we have is, how can we reach out both to our neighbors across the street and our neighbors across the world to understand what ideas they might have to be programmatic partners, potential tenants, host an event at the National Western Center, entrepreneurial thinking, long-standing programs. How do we get the right mix of all the types of organizations to fill, as Brad said, an amazing amount of space that's programmable in all kinds of awesome ways. So we're engaging community, investors, ranchers, scientists, events, neighborhoods, rural, people focus on health and wellness, all the priorities within our mission and vision. And then again, we're looking kind of nationally and globally for other types of partnerships. This is some of the language that we're using. Whether you're a farmer in the San Luis Valley, a farm-to-table chef in downtown Denver, a neighbor to the campus, or an international foundation dedicated to healthy food access and wellness, this phase is about uncovering the people and ideas that can bring the National Western Center to life. So here's what this will look like. In one form, it will look like a digital landing page. And so in order to help someone across the world understand and help us understand what role they might be able to play, we'll be launching a call for ideas that we're calling a Cultivate campaign. We're going to be reaching out to thousands of individuals. We'll probably get hundreds who respond to tell us what their ideas, what role they might play, what they might need. This will do two things. One, it'll start giving us a pipeline of ideas and what we might bring to the National Western Center. It also starts to create, as Brad was talking about earlier, a network and a pipeline to be connecting people both at the space and beyond. Next slide. And so the way that we're trying to suggest the value to someone to submit an idea, one, which I know you all appreciate, is the idea could come to life at the National Western Center. It's an opportunity to build connections with partners who have resources to help turn an idea into reality. On the other side of it, there's people who have resources to offer, and this provides them a vehicle to find the opportunities to provide support. Oh, just got a lot louder, sorry. And then there's an opportunity to join a network of peers, experts, and change makers, all committed to agricultural innovation and Western heritage. So these are just kind of our ideas of things that could show up, and none of these are real yet, but they're just inspirations. And so you could picture someone on the Eastern Plains, a farmer, a ranch, offering land to provide space to prototype new technologies. You could have an ag tech co-working space somewhere on the National Western Center campus. You could have a National Western without walls where there's an opportunity for ranchers and farmers in rural communities to literally take pictures of issues they have, from calving to weed mitigation, and open source or crowdsource that to get feedback from anyone around the world who might have the solution. You could have a youth-led healthy food culinary program, a local Western artist in residency program on the campus. And you could have a farm aid. I mean, we have a giant stockyard that's going to have a lot of cows in it at sometimes, and at other times it's going to be a huge opportunity for us to bring major events and festivals. You could have a global regenerative agriculture summit. And we could have food producers in the local community selling their produce on campus. And then we could have a gathering place, a place for community to come as part of their ownership of the National Western Center. We could have all of these ideas and more. And so what we're seeking is high volume, high quality ideas that are going to help give us a sense of what we need to do to move forward to develop that strategic implementation plan. Next slide. So once we have these ideas, there'll be an open period for about a month. We'll then be hosting a summit where we'll be doing the work to synthesize those ideas into a set of cohesive themes that are going to set our work product and our work groups moving forward. So we'll take the ideas, try to set a much smaller, like 5 to 7 key themes that we want to develop work plans around. The other piece that's really exciting, I think it'll be exciting for hopefully everyone in this room, is it also gives us a lived opportunity to experience the potential of what the National Western Center could be. So when those ideas that I just put up aren't kind of fake ones that we made up, but are actually real ideas that are coming through from all of these different partnerships, we get to look at them together and think about how we put that together in a way that's going to create the highest opportunity for us to achieve our mission. Sorry. And then from that summit, we'll be developing thematic work groups where we'll be bringing stakeholders into a 3 to 4 month process to help develop the actual programs and strategies to recruit, build those ideas, those partnerships. This will include our stakeholders, our partnerships, folks in this room, people who have submitted ideas into those work groups where we'll be kind of rolling up our sleeves and working together to develop work plans that are going to give us direction on how we move forward. And that result will be in September, a roadmap for world-class programming and operations of the National Western Center. For us, that's going to be our marching orders for the next several years to try to realize the vision from a programmatic standpoint. So we'll have a Cultivate campaign, open March 20th. It closes on April 20th. There'll be a summit, there'll be work groups, and then a work plan. And I want to be clear with this group, there's a touch point with community every one of these steps along the way. At the Cultivate campaign, we need you, and we need you to be submitting your own ideas, being an advocate, working with partners who have always had an idea they've wanted to see realized. At the summit, by design, the National Western Center Authority is an open process, so there will be community represented and invited to the summit. We'll be working to figure out how to create a smaller set of stakeholders to help us do the discrete work on setting the themes. But this is going to be a process that everyone can be a part of. At the work group level, we'll be recruiting folks into developing those themes, and these will be, again, people who have the interest and commitment to helping us actually develop a work plan that will eventually roll up into an implementation plan that we'll be bringing back to our board and all of you later in September.
So what are we trying to end up with at the end of the day after this process? Our roadmap, our work plan, the operating system that I mentioned before, the framework, the culture of constant innovation for the next 100 years, and that all of us are engaged the way we want to be engaged, doing the thing that we feel passionate about, doing that which we want to do and work on most. That's success to us in this process. Success in the outcome is that we've done that for you. That thing you want to work on, that thing you feel passionate about, either you're doing it, you're involved with it, or you're seeing somebody else is doing it, or you know when it's going to happen. That's success for all of us. The ask right now, the short-term ask, the midterm ask is submit your ideas. I'm sure they're rolling through your head right now. That's the time on March 20th to get on your computer or take a hard copy, because we'll have virtual and hard copy ways of submitting for all of this. But in the meantime, we need the fuel that drives this engine, that really kicks it into turbo, contacts. How we get this word out to as many folks literally around the globe. We are connecting, working hard to get network contacts in the neighborhoods, in the region, in the state, in the US, and internationally. And we're accomplishing that. That is happening. We've got 2 folks on the consultant team that's really what they're focusing on, is that they're working hard to populate an enormous list of folks, because we know the more people that know about it, the more ideas we get, the more great ideas we get. They've hit the mark in terms of the mission and vision. So we will take questions, comments now, please.
Okay, Ann. Brad, you're right. The ideas are already starting to flow. So we'd love to know how we're going to be able to communicate those ideas. So tell us about that. But is it your intention to start programs on campus now? I mean, some programs don't need physical buildings. It's just a program. It's something that you can do and, get exposure to the world for. So is that the intention, is to start something as soon as possible?
Yes. That's the hope, is that we find some things we can start now. I mean, it's happening now. CSU is doing stuff every day. History Colorado, Museum of Nature and Science, and Denver Water, and the partners are the National Western doing things now, already happening. So how do we start fitting those things into the brand and the themes of the National Western Center? It'll evolve slowly but consistently. But yes, we absolutely hope to do that. The way you will submit those ideas is that we're going to do the launch on March 20th. It's going to be hard to ignore it. It's going to be out everywhere. It will be in the press. It's all over. We'll be providing share kits to the folks who, in the core groups, will be providing share kits so that you with extensive, like for CSU, we're hoping they'll use that share kit in the appropriate places in their blast emails. We've already talked to the National Western Stock Show as well. We'll have share kits. but then it'll all lead you to the website. It's real simple. It's a form, and it literally is a very low barrier for entry. You can put your email, and Andrew's going to correct me on this, because I'm sure I'm not right, but it's about this simple. You can put your email and a one-sentence ID in there and hit submit. Am I sort of true, or is that?
Pretty close.
Pretty close. Yeah, we're trying to make it really simple. But you could also have an organization that's like got a really developed idea is ready for like the acceleration process, and they may be submitting a 50-page paper, a business plan or something like that. So we expect to see everything, those things and everything in between.
And to add to that, within the local community, we'll also be doing in-person engagement. And we know that digital, while this is a low barrier, there's still a digital barrier at times to access. So we'll be working with hard copy papers. We'll be taking ideas, digitizing them, making sure they're all in the same place. So there's lots of outlets to get these ideas, some digital, some not.
Oh, coming, Dave.
Thank you. Now, Brad, when the master plan was done, we had already had our neighborhood plan done. We didn't really realize how big this is and how it's going to be. And we never did put in our master plan how we could fit into this. So we're like behind. You know, we did our plan and then Swanson and then the master plan. So I think we were all kind of dumbfounded on this whole thing to see what it's going to be now. And where can Globeville's fit in? I mean, we have the west side of the river that, you know, is going to look like crap compared to this. So what do you suggest for us to start doing, or what can we do?
So I think there's opportunities for a resident or a business in Globeville to think about, is there a mission here, a vision or a strategy that fits in taking the neighborhood, an individual's experience or a business to another place that if they so choose, to something different, an evolution of that. I know I'm being vague, but I try not to be specific around what somebody might pick, but and just to put that idea out here to connect with potential partners. I mean, that's our best day, I think, at the National Western Center from the authorities' perspective is to create the connections and to get out of the way. I think it's really important that it's not the National Western Center doing it for a neighborhood. It's those connections that happen, and the folks who have the passion working with people that have expertise that they need to actually get to the finish line. I don't know what those things are, but I think, you know, from what Focus Points is working on right now with Urbana Huerta is an incredible opportunity for partnering there, and connecting, and who knows how impactful that could potentially be in partnership, bringing expertise. And CSU's already very involved with it, but bringing other expertise to the table and talking about how those partnerships could really accomplish what the mission vision is of that project.
Don't you think that we're going to need hotels on the west side of the river to accommodate what's going to happen here? I mean, we don't want all this business to go to Gaylord. You know, we want to keep it here. You know.
Yeah, and that can happen. I mean, there's plans, you know, street design guidelines being developed for Washington Street, the improvement of Washington Street. I mean, I think there's a lot of opportunities for Globeville.
So I appreciate that there's a lot of work and a lot of thinking going back many years. And I just want to put one thing on the table, because it feels like the center of gravity here is shifting away from a constituency partnered engagement with the partners of the National Western Center as a starting point to grow this up in a way. And I want to be optimistic. I want to be collaborative. I love this project, but I want us to look, because a certain decision is being made here. about forward motion around a certain type of engagement where, you know, what's happening is this sweeping call that doesn't, when there's touch points for the community and there's singular noun community once again, you keep mentioning a couple models that are in the neighborhood. Row house, focus points, those are models. Nothing against either organization. You talk about how are we going to form partnerships, what do they mean, and yet certain things are being formalized in a way that I am concerned is going to stunt the creativity of what the bringing about at local urban economy and direct relationships where the stewards that are the direct and adjacent constituents feel that they have ownership of this project. And I'm very concerned about this. I wish I wasn't, because I like the momentum, but I feel we have to think about this. I want no veils over any conversations about partnerships or funding. If people are making lists of where this is, I want that to be transparent. I want to know who the stakeholders are that are being talked to. We need to be brought together with each other as a broad root in partnership as a constituency with this project, and that's not what I feel is coming from this push. I feel like that's why I was beating the drum for how they did the general obligation outreach. That was a real interior to the city process. So I don't want to disrupt the momentum, but I'm asking for an adjustment of some sort. And I don't even, I'm asking for us to think about it somehow in a way, because we're talking about this massive global blast. And there's a lot of things that could be generated from many places that are even the same thing. And I want the folks that haven't had a chance to experience the creation of an amazing project because they've been deprived in the education and the exposure and all that to have a chance to feel the ownership. And regarding the ideas that you have up there that you were going through, Matt, I would say 40 to 50% of those ideas have been part of the legacy of the conversation going on for years. So when you say we are putting up a few examples, I want people that have helped participate with that process to feel that the things are materializing. So with that being said, sure, let's bring the whole world in, but I really feel like there's something that has to ground this in a way. And I'm not sure if it's a mechanism or, but there's something here that just feels a little out of balance to me.
I completely agree with everything you just said, and that is exactly what this is going to do. This is just simply creating the opportunity for connections to happen. It's completely transparent, completely 100% transparent, and it is just opportunities for connections to occur. It's period, and I don't have that. I have that same concern you have. I don't think this is going to create that. So. I mean, and I'm happy to talk with you a lot about it and more in detail.
I'm going to go to Jules and then.
Just a quick question: if the web portal and the hard copies will all be translated into Spanish,
yes.
There'll be a Spanish portal as well.
Yes.
Okay, and A will do a quick follow-up, and then we have a couple more things to get done. So.
I think that the void is on the level of relationships and how this is being rolled out. I mean, here's an example, and the way that the network is being constructed. Okay, I would rather that I would ask that everybody think. You're talking about people activating their networks and that kind of thing, but I really want the partners, and by partners I mean the partners to the National Western Center. I feel that there is momentum already in the engagement heart of the partnerships. If you look at what CSU is doing, I don't want it to be another one of the things. Let's activate the flesh and blood that we have in these incredible institutions along with the neighborhoods as the center of relationships in this. and not have too much surrogacy around somebody generating all these lists, and which we can do. I mean, that is not the hardest thing in the world to generate lots of lists all over the globe. You know, I can name 4 people in this room. You give them $500 and say spend 3 days, and they're going to blow your mind about, you know. So anyway, what I'm saying is I want us to not underestimate what we have already that could be visible even in the process of outreaching to each other within it. And maybe it just needs to be called out more and structured.
I hear you. I appreciate that.
Brad, I was just going to say, or ask AE, is maybe your concern, as I listen to you, is you're kind of afraid the center of gravity moves away from the community? Is that sort of a concern? I mean,
I think if you're talking about the constituency, the cohesiveness of a population unifying in the creation of the environment they share, relative to an extraordinary project, which is what it feels like it is to be in a neighborhood in a city, that is something that is achieved. The center of gravity, it being in that, means that we're building it together in a more hand-to-hand way that, I'm not sure, let's just leave it at, thank you for that question, Drew. Let's leave this and let's talk more. I feel like there's something that we have to look at, and I hope that the National Western Center, whatever contracting is going on, that the intellectual property from all of this is the National Western Center's, including the controls of the connections and the lists and all that kind of a thing, just as a public technicality. So.
Yep, you bet.
Okay, final comment from John.
I, for one, will take the position as a member of this group and as a member of the authority that I'll be damned if we're going to lose the center of gravity. This project needs to be built. It needs to be going forward. We are aware of some of the issues that you pointed to, AE, and I think it's an ongoing process. And I have faith in everyone in this room that we can address those things. This is not the first time. Just think back over the last 4 or 5 years, how many these type of issues have come up. And I coined the phrase, that very thin line that goes from here into the neighborhoods. So I for one, feel very strongly about maintaining the center of gravity, but I also feel I'm obligated to do everything I can to move this project forward. Yes, and we can work these things out, and your concerns, certainly it won't be shucked away. Got to address them, and we got to do them in a very positive and productive manner. Thank you.
Great. So we're just about to the end of our time here, and this is obviously an ongoing process, something that we can continue to talk about. I'll stay close with everyone and communicate information that everybody asks us to communicate to the CAC. We have 2 more things that I just quickly want to address before we end the meeting. One, Gretchen is still here, and we had one last item on the agenda before the CAC business that will be short, just about the triangle, and so Gretchen, I'll let you give 2 minutes on that.
The triangle is as a reminder, this is the remaining phases of the National Western Center Master Plan. There have been a number of discussions here. The city's Performance-Based Infrastructure Office, PBI office, is responsible for letting the request for qualifications, RFQ, and then a request for proposals later this year. The RFQ goes out tomorrow. That we'll make sure with Liz and I that it's a public document. We'll make sure that there's an easy way to access it for CAC members. Keeping in mind, what that document does is it frames a lot of the content and the start of the discussion, and we've been calling it an RFQ plus in some sense because we've been a little more, as a city, we've been a little more detailed to set the tone of the discussion, and so you should see the things in here reflecting what we are doing on phases 1 and 2, and it talks about
it talks obviously about the construction and the public facilities, but it also talks about the workforce items that we've brought forward here. It talks about historic items. So what it doesn't do is get into a lot of detail at this point. It's the qualification stage. So that will be allowing teams to come forward, and then the city's PBI office uses that set of interviews to shortlist a set of teams to then move forward to actually provide proposals. So what you won't see out of that is the detail of exactly the what and the how, but it sets the process in motion. And the authority is a big part of that, because through the framework agreement, they have a lot of the responsibilities for the care and custody and bookings and operations and maintenance of the entire campus. So they will be a party engaged with the city directly in getting that all the way to the finish line if we are able to attract qualified teams. So the city's PBI office has a website where all of this information is located. Has Emily Hopper has been to CAC, Liz? So I will ask her to come and present. We also had a public meeting earlier this week at the Johnson Rec Center, and it was pretty well attended, and there will be a series of public meetings throughout. I know that that's something Emily would be willing to come and talk to this group, given that you put years of effort into getting us to this point. So I know that she'd be willing to do that too and give that same presentation. So here we go. And we'll see how industry responds.
So, Gretchen, could I request, maybe it would be beneficial for this group at the next CAC to maybe have the triangle RFQ or the future RFP or something explained a little better, because it's kind of I couldn't go to that meeting, but it just the way you're kind of putting it out there, it's not just design of buildings, but it's a whole operation of this huge area. So just explain it to this group a little.
Absolutely, and part of it in a competitive procurement for the city, and we've talked about this, it looks different than the framework agreement where that's a contract between parties, and we were able to bring binders and walk through the materials. We have a very open and public meeting here, and teams that might want to propose on that, which is why we can't have public meetings on a competitive procurement. We haven't had the ability to do that yet. Now, we absolutely can come and walk you through what that document says. We just weren't able to do it during the development. But I think that's a great idea if you guys think that there's time on the agenda. I do think it's really important to understand.
It's just such a huge segment.
It's huge.
That I think if we have a better understanding.
Yeah. No, I'll ask Emily if she can be here. And then also, just as a reminder, the PBI office is responsible for getting all of the procurement and materials out the door. Mayor's Office of the National Western Center, our office functions as a sponsoring agency. So we like to think of it as NWC-CAC develops the what we want to build there. The authority provides why we want to build it, and Emily and the PBI office show us how to get it done through that procurement. And so everyone's got another seat in that process too. Just to functionally get an RFQ out the door. That's all that does. But there's a lot more that happens in 2019. So I'll ask her to explain the whole process, walk through the major sections of the document and what that means, and have some questions. She may or may not be able to answer a lot of them, but she can put information forward. Great. So thank you, Gretchen, for explaining that. So on my to-do list is to post the HKS video in a format that you guys can watch the fly-through of the Stockyards Event Center. My apologies that we had technical problems with that tonight. We're also going to get a public version of the RFQ in preparation for the meeting next week, so you guys, or next month, so that you can review that. So I will provide those. Now I'm just going to quickly hit two things and then we're done. We are going to need to have a special meeting for the full discussion of the design handbook. MIG has requested that. They gave me a date that did not work because it coincides with the water symposium, so we don't want to have a conflict there. So I will be getting to everybody with the date for a special meeting in March to do that. They also asked me about how to acknowledge CAC in the design standards and guidelines document. I pulled out my handy version of the master plan, which I carry with me to meetings, at AE's suggestion. Thank you, AE. And there is sort of a template for that in here. I will offer that up to them if that's okay. It names the people and where they're from. We have time to make sure we get that list right because this document's not coming out in final printed form for a while. But if it's okay, I will suggest the same format as it is in the master plan, which is the person's name and then their affiliation. Are there any other comments, questions, issues that people want to bring up? Juan?
Sí, quiero recordarles que el mayo 7,
I want to remind you that May 7th,
el señor Albus Brook está nominado para el Distrito 9.
Mr. Albus Brook is nominated for District 9.
Para que vienen las votaciones de mayo 7 para que todos los votantes
So all the electors can fill the ballots for the
voten
elections
por el señor Albus Brook
to vote for Mr. Albus Brooks
por el Distrito 9.
for District 9.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other public announcements, comments? Seeing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thanks for everybody for being here.